I started in community service. I got involved here in the community that I grew up in as a kid, right? And through community service, started learning two things. One, the challenges that we saw in our community and the impact that public service can have. And that led me to get involved in a number of different, issue advocacy campaigns and electoral campaigns eventually, really driven by two issues, I would say. One was the gun violence epidemic that devastated our generation and continues to, and the climate crisis, which, like so many young people, I continue to be terrified of what our future holds if we don't take the appropriate action. So, inspired by that passion for community service and driven by those issues, I started to get more and more involved. And then decided to run for office, recognizing that the urgency of the challenges that we face really required a new generation of leaders to rise up and take on those challenges. We've made so much progress because of the work of so many of my colleagues. And now what I bring is a greater sense of urgency and attention to these issues that we have to address. I hear a lot of young people that say, I don't want to engage in politics. That's not for me. But when you start talking about student loan debt, when you start talking about those freedoms, when you start talking about the cost of living, everyone feels those pains and everyone has those fears and everyone has those hopes and aspirations. And that recognizing that and focusing on those issues and starting with the issues is, I think, how you get young people engaged in this democracy. Young people are voting, right? Let's make that very clear. And young people have made the difference in the last many elections in this country. Young people are the reason that Joe Biden is the president and Kamala Harris is the vice president. Young people are the reason that in 2022, we did not have massive losses across the House and the Senate because young people showed up and turned out to vote and to defend those freedoms that we were talking about earlier as they were coming under attack. And young people are going to be the reason that Kamala Harris is the next president of the United States. I ran for the legislature with a few policy priorities and a few commitments. The first was to tackle the mental health crisis facing our students. It was an issue, when we talk about issues that I hear about, it was an issue that I heard about again and again and again, both from young people, from students. The first session that I was in the legislature, I was able to get legislation passed to address the shortage of mental health professionals working in our public schools, to make sure that we had more school psychologists, more school social workers, more counselors working in our schools to provide that necessary support for students. I committed to doing something about the climate crisis. I'm proud that last session we passed a bill, over $7 million of investments into climate innovation, into climate technology companies that are going to be the leaders in making sure that we have the technologies and the strategies and the tools to be able to address the climate crisis.